Hey there, I'm Ronnie Walsh. Welcome to Extrapreneurs, the show that highlights women in business who go above and beyond to collaborate, innovate, and share ideas. On this show, we'll talk about the importance of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. We're also talking finance, how to manage your money and protect your business. We'll be right back after we meet some of our great sponsors. Newfoundland and Labrador Organization of Women Entrepreneurs, supporting the women entrepreneurs of this province for more than 20 years. There are close to 600 video game studios in Canada, and these same studios contribute $3.5 billion directly or indirectly to the economy. Most of these studios are located in British Columbia and Quebec. But did you know Atlantic Canada is home to some of the country's major players? One of those companies is Other Ocean. It has offices in PEI, Newfoundland and Labrador, and California. Deirdre Ayre is the head of Canadian operations for Other Ocean, and she's here to talk to me about the opportunities for women in this sector. Thanks for being here, Deirdre.
Happy to be here, Ronnie.
Well, let's start off with this. What is Other Ocean? What do you guys do?
Well, we're a video game software development company. We also do quality assurance. So with video game software development, you're generally making your own products, or you're hired by a large publisher, what we would call a third-party developer. So you're working on their original IP or their licenses. So that could be, say, somebody like Disney or Microsoft or Nintendo or Sega or whoever, many of these large publishers that you would have heard of. And then with the quality assurance side of our business, we're testing our own products, but we're also testing for many of those large companies as well. So again, that would be third-party testing. So yeah, we've got operations here in St. John's and then also in Charlottetown, and then we've got another office out in California, so the sort of hub of the industry is out there. So that's where a lot of our clients are.
All the key points where you need to be located.
Pretty much.
So what are some of the big titles that maybe our audience would have heard of that Other Ocean was partnering with?
Yeah, well, we've worked on a Street Fighter license, Mortal Kombat license. We've worked on many Disney products. We've worked on let's see, right now we've got Rick and Morty in development for VR here in St. John's and also in the Charlottetown studio, so that's a cross-development product.
Oh, that's excellent.
We also are working on Microsoft 3DS, which was released in the fall, but we're working on updates now. So, I mean, those are many of the very large titles that many people would have heard of, very successful world-known titles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have offices in the Silicon Valley, and that's typically where people think that this gaming industry exists. Yeah. What is the industry like in Canada? I mentioned that's a quite significant financial impact to the economy, but what's it really like here?
Well, Canada is the third largest country in the world with regard to video game development. So, so next to the US and Japan. So the industry in Canada is extremely vibrant. It's a world influencer. We've many large companies, say like Electronic Arts or Ubisoft, are located in Canada. So we're definitely a major player on the world scene, no question about it.
Big names.
Oh yes, yep, absolutely. Yep.
So what kind of opportunities exist for women in this industry?
Well, I mean, it certainly is a predominantly male industry. That is how it has developed. Although any discipline, and when I refer to disciplines, typically in our industry, what you're talking about is art, design, which is sort of the architecture of the game, and then of course programming. Now there's lots of other areas obviously that you could get into, production and that kind of thing, project management and all that, but those are the three disciplines. Typically where you see more women is in art, and then probably design, and then least in programming. But from a business owner point of view, we would like very much to see obviously more women because of the fact that our 50% of our target group are women. You know, the split, although many think that the gaming split or the gamer split is far more male, it's actually not. So, you know, the more women you have making the products, you could imagine that they would be more attractive to women who are playing them. Plus, obviously, a different point of view. Any kind of diversification within our skill set is a good thing. You know, whether that be gender or whether it be having like a multicultural development team. Actually, in St. John's and in Charlottetown, that's one of the things that I think has made us quite successful, is that we draw our people from all over the world, and we've done that mostly because there is a skills shortage in Atlantic Canada for our industry. So we've had to hire internationally. But what that's done from a positive standpoint, not only are they transferring their skills, but it means we have a very diverse work environment, and so we have many different influences in our products, which makes for better creativity.
So what would you say to people who are thinking about getting into this industry?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things, and I'm going to just deviate a little bit from your question, but one of the things that I feel, you know, we do have the skills shortage in Canada. We're often looking outside to bring people in, which, as I mentioned, I think is wonderful, and I'm all for immigration. But there is this sort of untapped group of people when you think about women and girls in the industry, you know? So there's sort of 50% of the population that are really not being tapped. So we need to put more energy into that. I mean, that's you know, that goes across all areas of our lives, right? So this is not something that's just happening with the video game industry. I mean, this is a problem in many ways. We need to get girls involved in tech and in STEM. You know, right back. Really, those influences need to start in kindergarten or toddlers. You know, I mean, this is an issue across our culture. I don't think that girls are necessarily less interested. I think they're just not encouraged in that way. And when I say encouraged, I don't even mean like, you know, so you can be a video game programmer someday. I mean, they're not encouraged through their toys. They're not encouraged through the products that you know that they're playing with. Maybe often not through the books that they're reading, right? So, you know, I mean, it's really something that we need to dig deeper into our culture, and not just something, well, let's just make sure there's more girls at the engineering department at MUN. You know, I mean, this is a much bigger problem than that.
That's right, and by waiting till college and university, it might be too late. We need to start that encouragement at younger ages.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for women in this sector, Deirdre, so thank you so much for bringing that to our attention and sharing some information with us.
Delighted. Thanks for having me, Ronnie.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. Time for today's Business Leader feature. Let's find out what motivates and inspires Sharon Horan. She's the founder and president of Atlantic Orthotics and Fit for Work.
I'm Sharon Horan, and I'm the founder and the president of Atlantic Orthotics Limited and Fit for Work. Fit for Work is an occupational medicine and injury management company. We've evolved into helping people get jobs by doing pre-employment medicals. We help corporations keep their employees healthy and productive through wellness programs. My favorite thing about owning my business is definitely the diversification of what I get to do. I tend to function best when I have a lot to do. I get a lot done. Small business has given me that. I get to really see the bunch of people that I work with do a great job, and I'm really grateful for those people and how hard they work. I am inspired by so many things. You know, Newfoundland and Labrador as a province is where I want to be, and I look around and I see the great business leaders, and whenever I have a downturn, I think about some of these people and what they've created and realize they had their hard times too. So I pick myself up, dust myself off, and that's what keeps me going and keeps striving to be bigger and better than we are. The advice I give to someone, you got to be nice to people, you have to listen, you have to let others speak, you have to share your crayons. I think the next 10 or 20 years are hopefully going to be like the first 10 or 20 years. We're going to continue to listen to customers. We're going to evolve and change our service delivery. I guess I really thought about how important it is in today's economic times to celebrate. And I think if we remain optimistic and we focus on the good things that are happening, you know, that's really good for our province overall.
Welcome back to Extrapreneurs. Managing money may not be the reason you went into business, but if you didn't learn it, you won't be in business for long. But here's the thing, a lot of entrepreneurs are terrible at managing the books. So today we're going to talk about what you need to keep your cash flowing. Colleen Menchions is the principal with Menchions Consulting, a firm that provides accounting, advisory, and tax services. Thanks so much for being here, Colleen.
Thank you very much, Ronnie.
So what's the first thing an entrepreneur has to do?
First thing is figure out what you're going to do, your scope of business, so that you're not going off madly in all directions. And once you've got a solid plan, the next step is to budget. What do you want to bring in this year in revenue? What do you anticipate your expenses are going to be? What's that bottom line going to look like? Everybody strives for a nice, healthy bottom line, but if we don't have an idea what we want that bottom line to be, we'll never get there.
Yeah, entrepreneurs have that bright, shiny object kind of chasing things, so it's good that, you know, stay focused.
And I mean, finance is an administrative part of your business, and entrepreneurs are passionate about what's driving their business, whether it's the service they're offering or the product they're delivering, and that's phenomenal. That's needed if you're going to run your own business, but you can't lose sight of managing that business as well, and that's where that finance and admin piece starts, and it starts with a decent budget.
How should you structure your business so you always have that cash flow?
So I think the main thing with structuring your business is essentially starting with a budget, which can double as a forecast, a cash flow forecast. So you want to say on a 12-month basis, what do I have coming in the door cash-wise? What cash receipts am I expecting in January? What expenses am I expecting? And you do that through the entire year. And the hope is that you build a little pot so that when you have unexpected expenses, a major piece of equipment fails and you need a repair, or the car that you've been doing deliveries in for the last 15 years says, no more, and you've got to go replace your vehicle. Do you have enough padding built into your model so that that doesn't sink your business?
Where do people usually go wrong managing their money?
I think there are three kind of buckets where things go astray. The first is assuming that every dollar that comes in the door is available to be spent. And that's not true. As much as, or as unpopular as it is, at least a portion of every one of those dollars, some of it has to go to CRA, whether it's for HST or for corporate tax, and some of it should go to build that rainy day fund we just mentioned. So I think that's the first thing, is assuming money in is available to be spent in its entirety. The second place where I see entrepreneurs sometimes get themselves in trouble is that they borrow funds from the company for personal expenses, and they don't pay it back. And so then we get to year end, the company could be short on cash because we spent it on personal expenses. And from a personal point of view, you now have a large tax liability. And then you find yourself scrabbling, looking for cash to pay all of the liabilities that you used to fund your lifestyle when it should have stayed within the company.
Right.
And the other area where sometimes people get themselves in trouble is they mismatch the types of expenditures with the types of funds they're using. So operational revenue is used to fund operational expenses. But if you're going to make a major purchase, buy a building, buy a car, buy an expensive customized piece of equipment, you should be looking at long-term financing for those items, because you want to match your return on that investment with the lifespan of that equipment. So using an operating line of credit to buy a car is not wise when you could very easily finance it over the 5 years for probably cheaper.
Like a lease or a bank loan type thing.
Exactly.
So you talked about, personal versus corporate, which made me think of incorporation. When or should businesses think about incorporating?
There is no definitive point for the when. It's going to be a matter of the risk of the organization, how large you're growing, whether you've got employees, if it's just you. But there are a couple of definite benefits to incorporating. The first is a legal liability issue. So if you are a sole proprietor, you are the company. If you are a corporation, you are limited to what you've invested in that corporation. So for example, let's say you and I start a photography company, and we both invest $5,000 each. We are limited to that $5,000 should we be sued. So let's assume we shoot a wedding and the wedding goes horribly wrong. The bridesmaids are all crying, the bride's eyes are never open, you have not a single photo to hang on your wall at the end of the day.
Let's hope not.
If the bride sues our company, she could take our company for what we have, but we are limited to that $5,000 investment that we personally had. Our personal assets are protected. If we hadn't incorporated, the bride could sue us as the individual, because we are the company.
Right.
And not only is the $5,000 that we've invested in equipment on the line, but so is our personal bank accounts, so are our houses, so are our cars. So the exposure,
Our ability to eat.
Exactly. The exposure is much greater as a sole proprietor. The second benefit to incorporating are some tax benefits. So let's assume that we're still that sole proprietor and we've not encountered Bridezilla. So we're making a tidy little living, and this year we bill $150,000 in revenue. If I am a sole proprietor, CRA says that that income, the $150,000, is all in the current year, and I'm going to pay tax on it at roughly 46%. Even though I didn't need to use or spend all that $150,000, it's deemed as income in the current year. If I was in a corporation and I billed out that same $150,000 with the same clients, but I could live on $75,000,
Right.
I would pull out the $75,000, and I in fact would pay the higher income tax of about 40% on the $75,000, 35-40% on the $75,000, and that other $75,000 sits in my company and gets taxed at 14%.
Much better numbers.
Much better numbers, and it allows you to then reinvest some of that money to grow your business. So maybe next year we get $200,000.
What can people do to find the help they need?
I think the best thing is to form a network of advisors, and it doesn't have to be formal relationships. It could just be phone a friend. So if you're not comfortable changing the oil in your car, you find yourself a mechanic that you trust.
Right.
If you're not comfortable reviewing your financial reports, find an accountant that you trust. If you're not comfortable reviewing contracts or drafting contracts for sale, find a lawyer that you trust. And again, these don't have to be ongoing, continuous, long-suffering, expensive relationships. A lot of people are more than willing to teach you the skills that you need so that you can then do it yourself. I think the fundamental thing is to acknowledge what you don't know and then look for support in that area.
That's important advice, Colleen. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Stick around, we'll be right back. Newfoundland and Labrador Organization of Women Entrepreneurs. Your goal is to succeed in business. Ours is to make sure you do.
I'm Christina Dove, and I'm owner of Newfoundland Chocolate Company. I think from a very young age, I was always involved in business. I think I love the fact that I love to build and create. I love being an entrepreneur. It's been fantastic to be able to build and connect with local businesses. I get to build a team, and we all work together as a family. My mom and dad are incredibly inspiring to me. Their life experiences have taught me so much about hard work, and their love and support has guided me throughout my whole life. Also, my husband Brent and my two wonderful boys teach me through their eyes quite an incredible amount of knowledge. I think for me, the key to our success is our attitude, and knowing that no matter the challenges or the stresses, we just keep moving on. We have an incredible team of creative and brilliant people, and we all kind of jump in this together and respect each other and respect each other's roles. It's been quite an incredible privilege for me to have a life where I can actually contribute something of value.
As you can see, there's still work to do to close wage gaps and create equal opportunity in the workforce. One strategy to help companies achieve a diverse, qualified workforce is to adopt and implement a diversity and inclusion policy. The policy places value on things like work-life balance, training, and include setting hiring targets. I'm joined by two guests. Jennifer Williams is the VP Production Operations at Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, a subsidiary of Nalcor Energy, and Ashley Turner is an HR specialist in diversity and inclusion with Nalcor. Welcome to you both.
Hi, well, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So Jennifer, why is Nalcor taking on diversity and inclusion?
First and foremost is it really does promote business success. When there's research that shows that companies that are more diverse in nature versus companies that are not more diverse in nature, the companies that are more diverse, they definitely perform better financially. Another reason why we've decided to make this a priority for us is that women are underrepresented in key occupations in our company from Nalcor all through its subsidiaries, and that would be at the executive level as well as in our skilled trades and in some technical roles that we have. And the final reason why we felt it's an important thing for us to take on is within our supply chain. We see that women-owned businesses are underrepresented, and that's an area that we really want to make improvements on.
So how do you see this, you've had this policy in place for some time now. How do you see it improving your business?
When you think about on the supplier side, how it improves our business there is when you have a larger, more diverse group of people that are going to be involved in your competition process for various suppliers or various supply contracts. And you have a more diverse group, you have more competition, and then that can certainly benefit the company because we can generally get lower prices.
So what kind of progress are you making overall in terms of, I mentioned earlier, like setting targets and hiring practices and things like that? In
Newfoundland Hydro's executive team, the subsidiary, as you mentioned, of Nalcor, we have 3 of 7 positions are women. So if you do the straight math, that's 43%. So we're doing quite good there.
That's excellent.
The target across Nalcor is to have 30%, so that we're doing good on the hydro side of things. Then the other area that we've made, we believe to be good progress, is in the skilled trades. When we started and set our targets, we were at 2%, which feels like a fairly low number. Our target for that is 10%. By the end of 2017, we were at 4% for the skilled trades, and that was really achieved through the hiring of female apprentices in Newfoundland Hydro, so we're really proud of that work.
Well, that leads to an important question that I have for Ashley. Like, what does this mean practically for a business? When there's a new policy and you're talking about culture shift, I think of expense and time consuming, but what does it really mean?
Well, it really starts with champions within the business, so working collaboratively with leadership and other champions throughout the organization to look at practical implementation strategies and initiatives that we can undertake. We've had the opportunity to do that on the supplier diversity and the workforce diversity front. From a supplier diversity perspective, it's through partnership with organizations like NLOWE to really support women-owned businesses and look at how we can be more practical in inviting them and encouraging them to participate in our procurement processes. So we have actually provided some awareness training and insights to our supply chain team through partnership with NLOWE, and then also supplier information sessions to their members to give them more information and to inform them about our procurement processes. From a workforce perspective, we've been focusing on workforce diversity and inclusion for some time. We do have a diversity and inclusion council in place, and we've also launched a diversity and inclusion champions committee. So that gives us the opportunity to hear from them.
What does that mean? Does that mean that you're actually changing sentences in a job ad, or is it that granular? Help us understand that.
So we have actually undertaken a review of our recruitment and our talent management processes. We've looked at opportunities to be more proactive and encouraging diverse applicants to apply, and that includes through looking at the language and job descriptions, as well as the language in our other means of communication, such as our websites. I know Jennifer has some good examples of how we've done that from a very practical perspective as well.
Yeah, if you think about a job description, women generally are known to only apply for a job if they feel they're 100% qualified for everything in that list. And so Ashley and other HR resources have been working with our managers to ensure the job description that does get posted does include just what the applicants need, not the laundry list of everything else that they could ever want to pull upon throughout the course of their job. That means that we are going to appeal to more women, and more women will indeed apply. So that's been really helpful. That was one of the very specific examples. Something else that we've been trying to encourage internally is that if the women also may not feel they're fully qualified. So if we know internally, if we know of a candidate, we'll approach them and we'll say, hey, we think you'd be really good at this job. And we have several examples where women think, well, I didn't think I was qualified. And we really have those conversations, say, if we're talking to you, we think that you're qualified and you'd be a great candidate.
Well, thank you both for coming in and talking about this, and even to the practical point of, it comes down to job descriptions. I don't think people really think about that it can be something as that small that can make a world of difference.
Definitely.
Thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Fill out the application. Budget for it, plan for it, make it happen.
Trust your gut.
Use tech to connect.
Encourage others along the way. Prove them wrong.
Well, that's all for today's show. Thank you for tuning in. Next time, we're talking about social media, web marketing, and risk-taking. See you then.